Welcome on into Athletes Unplugged. This is the show that goes beyond the game. We let loose, we have fun, but most importantly, we find out what makes the biggest names in sports the biggest superheroes in the world. This is Athletes Unplugged.
I'm so excited to now welcome in Aubree Munro, two-time USA softball world champion, two-time NCAA champion, and on Team USA for the Olympics when that happens. Aubree, thank you so much for joining us here on Athletes Unplugged. Give me the scoop. Where are you in the world? What's your day-to-day like? What's going on?
I'm in Naples, Florida. That's where I live now. And so have been doing a lot of at-home workouts, figuring those out as I go. I'm lucky I've got a couple friends and teammates that are certified athletic trainer or like strength and conditioning coaches. So I said, this is what I have. Tell me what to do. And so I got some good workouts from some friends to kind of make do. I'm fortunate my husband's a charter boat captain, so I've been out on the water. I've been fishing a lot.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, it's been fun. Definitely slower pace down here. It's a pretty touristy area, so not a ton of people. But just kind of like doing what I can to stay sharp, stay in shape, and kind of taking this time for what it is and kind of letting my mind have a break sometimes, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true when we're sort of like go, 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 especially for a pro athlete. You don't really have that time to sort of stop, pause, and just like be in the moment. And I'd be curious, this is such an unprecedented time for you as an athlete. Like, what have you maybe learned about yourself in this moment, like having to go through something that you've never done before that maybe is actually a positive for you?
I've been like reflecting a lot because I've actually had the time to slow down and just kind of I think it's been good for me because we were on tour with Team USA, our pre-Olympic tour, and like it was getting really busy really fast. We were going to be gone for 6 to 7 months basically leading up to the Olympics, and all of a sudden we're sent home. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows when we're going to get started again. And it made me sort of reevaluate my experience and like what do I want to do different when we do get together? Building relationships with my team. I didn't want to get caught up in the craziness of tour and then where it's gone like that, and I didn't take the time to be present or to build relationships or things like that. So I feel like I was doing okay at that, but this time has really kind of challenged me to be like, okay, when we get back, I want it to be different. I want to really be present with those relationships and make a difference. And like, this truly is a once in a lifetime experience, and I want to remember it like that. And so I think it's just challenged me a little bit on those aspects a little bit more than I expected.
I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like when you're preparing for the Olympics and then you get the news, which in a way felt like it came a little late with everything else sort of being postponed. But what's that like when you have geared up your entire life for this dream that you finally get to embark on, and then it's postponed for a year?
I mean, if I'm totally honest, the day we found out, which we, like you said, we all kind of knew it was coming, and obviously global health is of the utmost importance, but I was in a really bad mood when I found out. I just was like, couldn't shake this feeling. Like, I was just frustrated. I understood logically, like, okay, this is obviously the best option for the world, duh. But at the same time, I don't really greet change with a smile most of the time.
Yeah.
So it was like, not only is this year changing, because my whole look at this year was busy, 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 and going to the Olympics, living out my dream, been waiting for forever. The softball community has been waiting for 12 years to now one more year. Like, what does this look like? I mean, we got married before the Olympics. I was like, I don't want to wait, but I have teammates that have put off their weddings till after the Olympics, and now, and so it's just like, it delays everything, life plans or things like just some silly things. Like, I was like, I'll get a new car after the Olympics. I'm like, I have to wait another year. I don't know.
You're gonna have to wait a while.
Yeah. So things that are in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal, but it just felt like one after another, realizing that's delayed. And it kind of put me in a weird spot. But I really rely on my faith, and I really feel like I've seen God on the other side of a lot of things that felt just crazy and difficult in the moment. And so I also had that aspect to really kind of just to help me get through that. So it took a day to process.
Yeah.
The whole day to process.
Oh my gosh.
But once I got through that, I just kind of just redirected my efforts. And I think athletes are actually really prepared for something like this. As prepared as you can be, we spend our whole lives being taught how to handle adversity, and sport is a built-in form of small types of adversity over and over again.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think that maybe softball lends itself to perhaps the differently than other sports of being able to maybe be postponed in terms of, you're all very young, you're still able to play the sport well, but maybe for other sports that are so specific on like timings and, say you're a sprinter or maybe you're a swimmer.
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm probably speaking out of turn in this way, but you wonder like one more year mentally and physically, what does that do to even just qualifying, right? Like just that extra layer that we as people that don't compete in the Olympics think, oh, it's another year away. That kind of sucks, but well, it'll still happen. But for someone else, that could change their entire trajectory of their Olympic experience.
Absolutely. And especially those individual sports, we're gearing up for qualifiers to even see it. So that's a whole nother year of, will I even be in Tokyo, which is just so hard. I mean, softball is kind of unique in the way that, one, we were the first team to qualify, so we knew that USA would be there. And then we named our team relatively early last October. So we knew the team, and they recently announced that they'll keep the same team, which is a relief.
Yeah.
We don't have to try out again. That process is the worst. But beyond that, it's because softball kind of lost a lot of support, lost a lot of resources since being removed from the Olympics in 2008. A lot of what we do is on our own most of the year. So we're kind of used to this, you're on your own. You're on your own for a while, get your training in, you have to be self-accountable and things like that. And so again, we're oddly prepared for this craziness.
Yeah.
We wish we could be together because it's always more fun to train with your team and all that. But we're oddly prepared to be able to figure out a way to stay at our best, to make things happen with limited resources at times. And so and there's going to be even more eyes watching in 2021.
Right. And in terms of getting more eyeballs on the sport heading into the Olympics, one of those things is great. You mentioned Athletes Unlimited and the fact that you can be a part of this league that is very different, and people will be curious about this. And then that will also help get eyeballs, promotion heading into a big year for you guys. You mentioned the big names and kind of the cachet that this is sort of bringing to people in sports, but what do you expect when you guys get out there? This is something we've never seen before, real life fantasy, drafting your own players, teammates, no general managers. What do you expect when you hit the field?
I do think there will be a learning curve for everybody. Like, we just don't know what to expect in some ways, but I truly think it'll be a lot of fun. The softball community, I can't vouch for other sports, but I know our sport has some really incredible human beings as well as super talented athletes. And maybe it's because we've been kind of a low-key sport because we've been out of the Olympics. I don't know. So everyone's just, we all figured out. We all have a sense of humor about the status of our sport at sometimes. And so it's there's some just really good people. And if you're playing at this level, at this point in your career, it's because you love the game. And so I'm really excited for, one, getting to spend time with athletes that love the game like I do, getting to talk shop. I'm a kind of a softball nerd. I just love watching the game being played well. So I anticipate a lot of great softball. So I'll be totally nerding out over that. But just in general, getting to work with people like Gwen Spekas, who's been instrumental. I think she's on the athlete advisory board. I think that's what they call it. And just instrumental in getting people to this league. And she's a total gem of a human being. She's a catcher. So we're going to get to work together a lot. And just spending time talking shop. I honestly feel like I'm going to be able to get a lot better through this because I'm going to be facing great competition. It'll be great. A lot of live pitching at bats, just real life competition type stuff.
As someone who's also just understanding the league, what kind of gamesmanship do you think will be involved in terms of like, do you pick your friends? Do you pick, like, is it kind of like Survivor? Do you have, you got alliances in that regard? Or,
Right.
oh, someone's got really high fantasy points, they're on my team. Do I sort of strategize how to make sure that like they don't go ahead of me? Like all these different things. Have you kind of thought about that?
Yeah, that's the one thing I am really curious about, because while everyone's really cool people and we all get along, we're all also really competitive.
Yes.
And, there's a leaderboard and there's that just gets added to throughout the whole 6 weeks. And then you get an additional bonus at the end, depending on where you're at on the leaderboard. So it's going to be like, okay, no, and a lot of the like points are heavily valued on team wins. So yes,
Right.
I want to do well as me, myself, like I want to get all my individual points, cool. But the team stuff is like where the big points are.
Yeah.
So it's modeled to like still really push this.
That's good. Or else like you could then just start like sewering your teammates. Like,
right,
if you're
right.
captain, you're like, oh yeah, sorry, you're not in the batting order today, all this stuff.
Yeah, which was, I mentioned I was skeptical. That was kind of what I was about. I'm like, I don't really thrive in like an atmosphere. It's not really who I am. So I was kind of like, I don't know about this. But when I kind of saw the points breakdown, I was like, oh, okay. So nobody really wants us to be super focused on individual.
This is great, and also really awesome for female athletes and female sports, because it's a pro league. You guys are going to get paid.
Right.
There's incentives for performance bonuses, and then also just the element of, everyone sort of, I think the world will be quite different after all this. Like everyone's now, we've seen all the major leagues stop, and then everyone is thinking like, oh, what are other things out there? And you sort of start to change your thinking and like, what would I normally do? And this is different. And kind of, what is it? They say like out of sort of like chaos, something is created and something new and different, which I love. And a couple questions though, for specifically, like, who of the people that have already signed on with AU, who would you want to draft if you had the choice?
Well, it's tough. Like, I mean, Amanda Chittister, her last season in the NPF, she balled out, and she's on Team USA. Like, I've seen this girl take BP every day, and so she would be up there for me. Haley Wagner is a pitcher, and this is kind of twofold. One, she's a great pitcher. Like, I know this. I would want the lefty pitcher on my team. I also don't want to hit off Haley.
Right. Okay. So there you go. There's something you got to think about.
Yeah, series right there. We actually played each other in high school, like all the way back in California.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
The same league. And then we played each other in the national championship when she was at Michigan and I was at Florida. And I'm not kidding. I think I must have at least 20 appearances against her. And I think I may have gotten one hit. She's super talented, and she's a power lefty with just dirty movement on a righty's hands. It's tough.
Okay, that's great. A couple of things about catchers I'd be curious from your perspective. What would be the biggest misconception that people have about your position?
Ooh, that we don't do anything. We're just back there to catch the ball and throw it back to the pitcher. You'd be surprised how often I get when I describe things about what I do, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, my job is hard, dude.
Yeah. If you could pinpoint one thing, what would it be?
Well, the thing is, I truly believe that catchers can change the game. Like, they're so involved. You have so many touch points. You're working so closely with the pitcher that if you can do your job well, and I'm a firm believer that if you're doing your job well, most likely no one will notice. It's when you're not doing your job that they notice. So it's this weird thing of, if I'm doing it well, no one's going to really notice, but I know I'm changing the game. Like, I impact it with my presence, with my skill set, with my leadership, with my ability to work pitchers. Like, it's my job to make them their best, whatever that looks like. And it's different for each pitcher. But a lot of people, like, it's just a position that's back there, it's just not. It's so much bigger than that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'd be curious, like, do you ever try to trash talk any of the hitters that come up to try to get in their head?
Trash talk's not my thing.
Okay.
It's not my thing. I'm more likely to make a joke with a hitter like, especially if they're my friend, I'm like, I'll just say something dumb. But like, I'm not a trash talker.
I'd be like, oh, you better watch out for this. Like, this is gonna be.
Oh my gosh. Well, we played in a tournament a couple years ago. I think it was 18 or 19. And we played our junior team. Like, they were playing in the tournament kind of as an exhibition. So these kids are like babies in college, right? And we have a bunch of grown women. Monica Abbott, one of the best pitchers in the world, comes in late, and this girl comes up to bat and she's like, cool, I'm hitting off Monica Abbott. She's like a freshman in college. And Monica blows one by her, and she swings as hard as she can. And she literally looks at me and she goes, whoa, that's fast. And I was like, and I just looked at her, I was like, yeah, girl, good luck.
Yeah, like, you don't have a prayer right now. Sorry, honey. Okay, so taking this out of softball, but what celebrity would you want to teach to play softball?
Like, I would want to teach them how to play softball?
Yeah, like, who do you think would be a nice addition from the celebrity world into the softball world?
Oh, man. See, there's layers to this too. Like, do I really care if you get good at softball, or do I just want to hang out with you?
Exactly. Yeah. Pick, what would be
or do I want to pick an athletic celebrity who I could actually teach how to play softball and like,
yeah,
play
like,
catch
would
with?
you then want to groom them to be like your prodigy in a way?
Right.
Think about your priorities.
I'm going to go double on this.
Okay.
I think I'd have to go with John Krasinski.
Oh, great
because
choice.
Big Office stan, and then he did the some good news. So I'm
that
like,
was great during this time.
Right. He's got a great heart. He's very funny. I'd love to hang out with him. And I think he's athletic. I don't know exactly what he did, but I'm under the impression that.
Yeah, you're like, in my mind,
yeah.
I remember, I actually just started watching The Office, if you can believe it. I'm 10 years too late to this. So if you're hitting, would the moment ever come where you want to bat flip?
No, I'm not like heavily anti-bat flip or anything. I don't really care. I don't love like something that feels really premeditated, but I know that there's some people that like you just did that. You just crushed it in a big situation, and I don't really care. I think some people like it. Keep the game fun and exciting. I'm not a hater.
Your personality, no real trash talking, no bat flipping. Like, you're not here to showboat and make people feel bad about themselves or anything like that. That's a good teammate. That's someone that you'd want representing you at the Olympics. What's your throwback sports pick?
So it's a picture of me in catcher's gear. That's basically covering my entire body. I was so little. I was 6 years old. And that's when I started catching. And I actually started catching because our other catcher started crying. And my mom was our coach. Our pitcher threw too hard for her. So my mom, I was the only one that she could force back there because I was her child. So she was like, hey, you want to try catching? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I, first ball hit me right in the stomach. And everyone came running out. All these other girls were 7 and 8 years old. I'm 6 years old. And they're so scared that I just got hurt. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't feel a thing. This is so cool. So this picture is from that season. And I'm just like covered in this gear. It's so big. And I was growing out my bangs. I wore my hair down because I used to get a bob cut every year. And so I couldn't put it in a ponytail.
Thanks, Mom.
Which I hate now, because when I see girls like playing with their hair down, I'm like, ugh, it drives me nuts. Yeah. So I look back and I'm like, I was that girl. But I love that though. Yeah. Yeah,
it was a good story too, that like your mom threw you back there, kind of like what I would imagine also similarities to a goalie, because no one really wants to be a goalie as a kid, but I guess that's a testament to like, that's exactly where you should be. So
right, which is exactly how I felt at the time. I just loved it, and I loved being so involved. At the time, I was your prime like right fielder, playing in the dirt, like bored, didn't know what to do, and so that got me involved, and I really fell in love with the game that year because I was catching, and I'm just coming off the field like so excited, like we're playing softball. So yeah,
that is great. Awesome stuff. Okay, thank you, Aubree, so much for joining us here today. Good luck with the season, and we will circle back and see how everything's going, and seeing how the gamesmanship, if you are drafting those players that you said you drafted, I'll be keeping notes. I'll keep the receipts. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Want to be featured on Athletes Unplugged? Share with us one of your favorite memories from playing sports and tag us on all social channels at AU Pro Sports. And remember to like, follow, and subscribe. Till then, be unlimited. Be unlimited. Be unlimited. Be unlimited.